if we could change gears now, and I'd invite Al Morales from Malta. And Malta has got a very different sort of angle to this. And you've got a very interesting sort of start to life where you were part of the whole Alphabet moonshot. So I'm sure people would love to hear about that, Al. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. I'm Al Morales. I'm the CFO at Malta, and I'm very much looking forward to telling you a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing. So at Malta, we have a technology that is grid scale. It is a long duration energy storage technology. We're focusing on 100 megawatts and up. We utilize molten salt to store the thermal energy. Our system utilizes known science and proven components and processes. So our system has a combination of attributes that we believe makes it extremely well suited to certain particular applications. So first and foremost, fossil asset repurposing. We can integrate into an existing power generation unit, be it coal or natural gas, and assist utilities and other grid operators to more seamlessly manage their transition away from fossil assets, and to do so in a way that is cost effective and with significantly lower risk than other avenues. Also, our systems provide not only electricity out or certain heat out, but we also provide certain grid reliability services such as rotational inertia. This is becoming increasingly important as the energy transition continues. And it's particularly important in certain markets, markets that are islanded, like Iberia is not very well connected to the rest of Europe, ERCOT also. And as a result, it's more important there because they cannot import that attribute from their neighbors. So these attributes differentiate us, and we believe give Malta a clear advantage in our areas of focus. Some of these attributes include, as I mentioned, utility scale, 100 megawatts and up. We are cost effective, particularly at the larger scales above 100 megawatts. We can scale duration very easily and cheaply. So go from 10 hours to 20 hours and on up very cost effectively. And as a result, the cost per kilowatt hour comes down dramatically. We are energy dense. So a 100 megawatt 10-hour unit requires around 12 acres. And there are no geographic limitations. We don't need certain geological features or anything. We can go anywhere where there is that much space. We provide reject heat, which can be used for certain industrial processes, and have very operationally flexible. We act very much like a combined cycle plant. With that background, I'm going to attempt to play a 2-minute video. We appear to perhaps have been having some issues with that. So let me see if this works.
Malta's innovative clean power plant is a like-for-like replacement for fossil-fueled power and heat plants. It generates 100 megawatts of clean power and 70 megawatts of clean heat. It eliminates carbon emissions and avoids the volatile prices of fossil fuels by storing zero-emissions, low-cost available renewable energy. Let me tell you how it works. Electricity from the grid or directly from renewable energy enters the plant through a switchyard and flows to the plant's power island. Inside the turbine hall, the electricity powers a heat pump. Its grid synchronous motor provides stability services to the grid outside the plant, while the compressor and turbine convert the electrical energy into thermal energy. Heat exchangers transfer the thermal energy into molten salt and coolant storage systems, technologies that are used today throughout the world in solar power and LNG facilities. When needed, the stored energy is transferred back to the power island to drive the turbine and generator, delivering 100 megawatts of clean energy back to the grid and up to 70 megawatts of clean heat to decarbonize hard-to-abate sectors. With a combined efficiency of up to 90%, Malta's clean power plant performs better than any other storage technology. It allows utilities to have solar and wind power available when they need it and prevents wasting surplus clean energy. It generates carbon-free heat needed to clean up industry, agriculture, and community heating. Malta's clean power plant delivers grid-scale solutions, accelerating the energy transition and helping to make up for lost time.
Well, I'm glad that worked. Okay, let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about our history. So the concept for this technology came from a man named Robert Laughlin. He's a physics professor at Stanford, winner of the Nobel Prize. He had the idea that you could take known science and proven equipment and combine them in a novel way for cost-effective long-duration storage. This was around 2012. The concept was acquired by Google and it went through their Google X or Moonshot Factory program. I understand that something like 98% of the companies that go through that program don't survive. Malta was one of the few that did. It got spun out in 2018. That Series A was led by Breakthrough Energy. Today in the circle, you can see a number of our other shareholders and partners. Shareholders include not only Google and Breakthrough Energy, but Alfa Laval. They are the world's largest manufacturer of heat exchangers. They are a technology partner on the heat exchangers. Proman, the world's second largest producer of methanol, also has an EPC arm, Chevron, and then most recently, Siemens Energy joined us as a shareholder late last year. We'd like to say that we were conceived by tech, but we've been embraced by industry because we do look and feel like a traditional power generation asset. So, the left side here, I'm not going to talk about too much. This, merely demonstrates that as the energy transition continues, and the mix goes more and more to renewables, we believe that grid reliability is going to become more and more of a concern. So that's one of the reasons we believe we occupy a unique segment. We provide not only electricity in and electricity out, but also heat, as well as certain grid reliability services. On the right, I guess I'll touch on this briefly. This is just our attempt to depict where we sit in the landscape. So on one axis, you have scale. We're at 100 megawatts and up. On the other axis, you have duration. We're 10 hours, say up to 200 hours. When you might see on the upper right-hand side, we overlap with some other technologies. Some of those, however, are geographically limited. You need certain geological attributes. We don't, so we could go anywhere. When you layer on top of that the fact that we are deployment ready and provide grid reliability services, we do believe that sets us apart. I've already touched on many of the points on this slide, but I'd like to elaborate just a little bit more about the technology itself. So we utilize a heat pump to charge. You take electricity from the grid, drive a compressor, compress a working fluid to create heat. We store that in molten salt. That molten salt comes straight out of the CSP industry. And then in reverse, it's just the opposite, a heat engine. We utilize very well-known components, turbo machinery, heat exchangers. Those come from our partners, Siemens and Alfa Laval, and then the rest is just pumps, pipes, valves, and steel. So, we believe we're very well suited to help utilities and other power asset owners transition out of existing fossil assets. We need about 12 acres. We could fit right in the footprint of a coal plant. We don't have to be located there. We could be grid connected or located somewhere else, but it's a nice reuse of the site. Electrically, we're very similar to a fossil asset. We could reuse the interconnect. It's possible, depending on the particular facility, we can reuse some of the existing steam cycle. And then we provide the attributes that you lose when you shutter a coal plant, say energy, capacity, grid reliability services, including that inertia. And then operationally, we're very similar to a fossil asset. We ramp up and down just like a combined cycle. To a grid operator, we are like an old comfortable sweatshirt that you put on. It's something that they're very comfortable with. We'd like to say that we work with the energy industry. It's kind of part of our core philosophy. As I think you've gathered by now, there's nothing exotic here. We don't have any minerals that are mined in the Congo. We just use cement, steel, salt, air. And the equipment, we don't have to build a manufacturing facility. We have exclusive rights with our key vendors, Alfa Laval and Siemens, for the equipment for this application that they are manufacturing. And so we are leveraging existing industry manufacturing capacity and expertise in order to more rapidly deploy. Just a little bit more here about the history. So the top row here just indicates our funding. It was formed in 2018 with a spin out from Google. We've gone through various rounds of funding since then. Shareholders include the ones pictured here: Piva Capital, Chevron, Trafigura, and most recently Siemens Energy. We also have partnerships with a few others, technology partnerships with Alfa Laval and Siemens, as well as with Proman, and then deployment with Bechtel and some others. So just to wrap up, we think we're in a great market. Given the particular market focus, we don't see that there are many other alternatives that do the combination of duration and scale and provide the attributes that we do. We've got a great team and partners, and we are in the process of deploying. So with that, I will wrap it up, and thank you so much for listening.
That's excellent, Al, and really well done to you and the whole team. I think we're getting a couple of questions coming in, one particularly focusing on the breadth of your strategic partners. And, you know, you're dealing with a very large industry that's used to operating in a certain way. But, you know, with the Alfa Lavals, the Siemens Energy, or even the traders like Trafigura, you know, has that been a sort of noticeable assistance in your growth?
At this point in time, definitely yes, with our technology partners. Trafigura and some others, I'd say, are there standing by to assist us with, you know, market information and trading and the like. I think it does give a lot of comfort to certain of our customers, given the scale that we're focused on. We're really focused on larger industry players, utilities. With Siemens, you know, we can bring Siemens to a meeting that really counts for a lot. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And also, I think one thing that we're picking up from your presentation, and also I think it's relevant for the next speaker at Hein, is that you're not fighting against the incumbents. You're actually working with them, right? And I think there's something very special there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a core philosophy of ours, is to work with the energy industry. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, the global energy industry is one of the largest in the world. I think it's valued at around $3 trillion annually.
Yeah.
And it works, with the exception of emissions, and it works extremely well. It delivers energy every day, every moment, to every corner of the globe. There's a lot of expertise that's been built up doing that over the course of the last century. We just want to tap into that, work with it, make it greener, rather than try to replace it.
Okay. A couple of other questions. You on this one, you may not want to answer it yet, but any idea on what is the revenue streams, expected revenue streams for Malta? How big is the heat versus grid services, for example?
So if for a 100 megawatt electricity output, we can produce about 70 megawatts of heat. I'm not sure if that answers the question. The market value of the heat can vary tremendously from one particular location to another. It's a little different than electricity. There isn't a heat grid, you know, like there is for electricity. Does that answer the question?
I think and hope so. If not, I think it's going to pop up again.
Okay, sure.
And another question. Well, I think we got a minute or a couple of minutes. Yeah. How can Malta compete with battery storage systems that are being deployed with very large wind and solar projects?
Sure. I think we're not competitors so much. We're focusing on different markets here. So lithium ion does what it does very well.
Yeah.
2 hours, 4 hours, perhaps extending up to 6 hours. Very fast frequency response. We don't do that. We start to come into our own at about 10 hours and at much larger scales. And, you know, as I mentioned, if you go from 10 to 20, if you're firming wind, for example, in most places, you need over 20 hours, maybe 24. Our cost advantage really begins to shine as you start to go up in duration. Also in scale. In fact, we're getting pushed to larger scales by the customers that we are working with. They're saying 100 megawatts is fine, but if I'm shutting a coal plant, you know, I'm looking for 300 megawatts, 500 megawatts. And rather than just duplicate, have 3 or 5 100 megawatt units, you lose the cost advantage by doing that. And so we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I think, you know, people are now starting to appreciate the need for, you know, beyond 8 hours. In fact, I think even in the Midwest and North America, you know, 50 to 100 hours. I mean, that's if it's available, I think people will use it. So, well, I think that's excellent, Al. We really appreciate that, and well done.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.